Welcome everyone to the basic Jainism class. Today we've got Prafulaben, who is going to be talking to us about the law of karma. Prafulaben is a change communications consultant, and she's also a secretary and religion portfolio holder for OAUK Northwest area. Prafulaben has been awarded a One Jain Award for Community Excellence in 2022. Prafulaben has asked for this session to be interactive. So if you've got questions, please raise your hands, put questions in the chat. Prafulaben is going to be happy to answer questions. And if people can keep their videos on, that would be great. I'll now hand over to Prafulaben.
Thank you, Darshana Ben. Jai Jinendra and Pranam Badane. I hope everyone's really well this evening, and we're going to spend probably the next hour talking about the law of karma and karma according to Jainism, and the theory of karma. So the two important things which Darshana Ben's already referred to, I do want this to be quite interactive. And there will be some points at which I am going to ask you some questions, and it'd be great if you put some answers in the chat if you're able to. So what are we going to talk about today in this presentation? So my talk is called The Law of Karma. We're going to talk about what is karma according to Jainism and the Jain view of karma, why this matters, and why does it matter that we understand the karma and the part that karmas play in our lives? The 8 types of karma, that is, according to Jainism, the karmas, so they can be destructive or non-destructive, but there are 8 types of karmas, and there are some subsets of those 8 karmas as well. And then what are these 8 and how do they manifest and impact us and our lives? And what can we do to minimize the impact of karma? We can't completely ever negate karma from our lives. From the moment we get up to the moment we go to sleep, and even while we're sleeping, we are accumulating karma. So what can we do to reduce the impact of bad karma and actually accumulate good karma, which is also referred to as punya? So without further ado, I'm going to ask Darshana Ben to share some slides, and then I'll try and talk through these slides. If you have got questions for me, it'd be good if you could put them in the chat, and if you can't do that, then we will take them at the end of the conversation. So that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. There may be other things that you want to talk about, and I'm happy to make this a conversation between us as well. It's lovely to see all of you here, and yeah, let's do this, Darshana Ben.
Can you see the slides?
I can, thank you. Yeah.
If you just let me know when you want me to move
Yeah,
on.
let's go to
Okay.
the next
Brilliant.
one. Great, thank you. So karma, Sanskrit says karma literally means deeds of words and thoughts or action. And according to experts, so these are various people who have studied karma both from a perspective of Jainism, but also as a philosophy. And some scholars often say that there are misconceptions about what karma really is and how it applies in our lives. And I'm hoping that after the conversation today, we will all be a little bit more knowledgeable and also clearer about what this actually means. If you have questions, please save these to the end of the presentation, and I'll be happy to take them then. I have got some questions for you, and it'll be great if we can have a conversation about that, Darshana Ben, at some point, and I'll talk about that. So according to Jainism, we have a unique perspective on karma, and today we're going to learn a bit more about that and explore more about what this uniqueness is. And I guess the fundamental thing is that nothing happens without a cause, and each of us is responsible for our actions. These actions are the cause that produce results or reactions. And this is the eternal and universal law of karmas. So it's the cause, the reaction, and we can't separate those two. So whatever we do, there is a reaction to that. And that is what is karma. Let's go to the next slide. Thank you. So as I said, in Jainism, we believe that karma is a physical substance. So it's a thing. It's a thing everywhere in the universe. Karma is described as small particles, and in Jainism language, we call them pudgals. So pudgals are attracted to the soul or jeev by the actions of that soul. In this picture, we're saying what you do today can improve all your tomorrows. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But effectively, that's what it is. Whatever we do, our actions, whether we think those actions, whether we speak them or do them, has an impact on our soul and how many karmas we are then accumulating. If you think about it like a board with some things that are sticking to the board. So these particles, the pudgals, are sticking to our soul. So each time we think something, we say something, we do something, each time we are doing this, and each action is resulting in pudgals sticking to our soul. And so what we think, say, and do really does matter. And I just want everyone here to hold that thought for a minute, that what we say, do, and think really matters. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the same thing applies, and we believe in reincarnation. So આપણે બધા believe કરીએ છીએ કે મારું જ્યારે આ જન્મમાં મારું આયુષ્ય પૂરું થશે અને હું બીજી કોઈ ગતિમાં જીવ લઈશ. That's called reincarnation. So we alongside Hindus and Buddhists, we believe in reincarnations. Some faiths or religions of the world don't believe in reincarnation. So for them, this conversation may be a different matter. However, we believe in reincarnation, and we say the cycle of birth and death and rebirth is determined by our karma. So આપણે આજે કંઈક સારું કરશું તો maybe આપણી next life માં આપણે સારો જન્મ મળશે. આજે આપણે કંઈક ખરાબ કરશું તો we may end up with not such a great life in our next life. And as human beings, so Manusya Janma is the only place where actually this is in our control. We can control this and we can do something about it. We believe, so this is according to Jainism, that bad karma is caused by harming living things. And to avoid bad karma, we practice ahimsa, a strict code of non-violence. And ahimsa nivat, what we're talking about is non-violence by speaking. So what we say, our thoughts and our deeds. It isn't enough to say I'm a vegetarian and I don't kill little birds or insects and I don't eat, animals. It's actually what we think and what we say is also about ahimsa and protection. So a question for you. Do our actions have a relationship with our karma? What do we think? Do we think that's a yes? Or do we think, no, actually, I don't believe it does? We'll come back to that question. But simply put, and what we're going to learn in a minute as I go through this presentation is, yes, there is a relationship between the actions, whether they are spoken, whether they are thought, or whether they're done. There is a relationship between the actions and the karma that we accumulate. I'm going to stop there for a minute because I want to play a slogan for you, which tries to encapsulate some of the things that we're going to talk about today. And in it, I want you to just think about what the slogan is meaning, and let's see if you can, if we can then come back to it to discuss this a bit more. Right, I'm going to try and share my screen.
कर्म गति बलवान घड़ी कोई न पायो जान, जन्म मरण सुख दुखरी बेला मिले करम रहता। सुख दुख मिले रे भाई कर्मो रे परवाने,
सुख दुख मिले रे भाई कर्मो रे परवाने।
कर्मो री गति कोई नहीं जाने, नहीं पहचाने, मिले कर्मो रे परवाने।
सुख दुख मिले रे भाई कर्मो रे परवाने।
सुदर्शन पर लांछन लाग्यो कर्मो रे ही कारणे,
सुदर्शन पर लांछन लाग्यो कर्मो रे ही कारणे।
सती चंदन बाला बिक गई कर्मो रे परवाने,
सती चंदन बाला बिक गई कर्मो रे परवाने।
गज सुकुमाल पर अंगारा रखिया हो भाई, गज सुकुमाल पर अंगारा रखिया, है तो कर्मो रे ही कारणे।
सुख दुख मिले रे भाई कर्मो रे परवाने।
कर्मोरी बलवाणी आगे कोई नहीं बच पायो रे,
कर्मोरी बलवाणी आगे कोई नहीं बच पायो रे।
मेघमाड़ी प्रभु पारस ऊपर पानीड़ो बरसायो रे,
मेघमणि प्रभु पारस ऊपर पानीड़ो बरसायो रे।
वीर प्रभु भी तेजो लेशा झेली हो भाई, वीर प्रभु भी तेजो लेशा झेली, है तो कर्मो रे ही कारणे।
सुख दुख मिले रे भाई कर्मो रे परवाने।
करणी आपो आपरी थे सुन जो चतुर सुजान, काया माया छूट सी पर कर्म न छोड़े साथ। ब्याव रचावण गया नेम जी छोड़ ब्याव बैराग लियो,
ब्याव रचावण गया नेम जी छोड़ ब्याव बैराग लियो।
पांचों पांडव वन वन भटक्या राम लखन बनवास कियो,
पांचों पांडव वन वन भटक्या राम लखन वनवास कियो।
कर्म गति तो कोई टाली ना टले ओ भाई, कर्म गति तो कोई टाली ना टले, मिले कर्म जैसी करनी वैसी भरनी कर्म तो एक परछाई है
जैसी करनी वैसी भरनी कर्म तो एक परछाई है
दुख की लड़ियां सुख की घड़ियां कर्मों के संग आई है
दुख की लड़ियां सुख की घड़ियां कर्मों के संग आई है
चाहो तो मुक्ति काटो कर्म जंजाल भाई चाहो तो मुक्ति काटो कर्म जंजाल मिले कर्मों रे परवाने
सुख दुख मिले रे भाई कर्मों रे परवाने
पुण्य धर्म री बेल ने मानवी सींचो दिन रात मोह कर्म ने त्याग दो पुण्य ही देसी पल में खुलते पल में बंधते कर्म सभी से न्यारे हैं
पल में खुलते पल में बंधते कर्म सभी से न्यारे हैं
बात समझ कर महापुरुषों ने अपने कर्म संवारे हैं
बात समझ कर महापुरुषों ने अपने कर्म संवारे हैं
गौतम मंडल के वे औतो पल पल हो भाई गौतम मंडल के वे औतो पल पल मिले कर्मों रे परवाने
सुख दुख मिले रे भाई कर्मों रे परवाने
So, in that stubborn, we heard a number of stories and apre examples I pake badana karma thi elakana karma na pramanej emne je result malyu eni amavat avi. So we're going to talk a bit about that a bit later on. What we're going to do now is move on and talk about and the 8 types of karma. So Darshana Ben, if you want to move the slide, please. So I'll just recap what we've just talked about. So karma, according to Jainism, are small particles attracted to our soul by what we think, do, and say. So when we knowingly or unknowingly kill something, when we lie or steal and do other things like that, we are actually accumulating bad karma. Karma not only is the cause, but also the subtle matter which infiltrates the soul, obscuring the natural, transparent, and pure qualities, and then polluting the soul. So, apna jivan ma ke apna soul ma je kachro ave che. According to Jainism, karma pollutes the soul. So bad karma pollutes the soul. This pollution taints the soul with various colors. And in Jainism, we describe these colors as lesyas. Based on its karma, a soul undergoes transmigration and is reborn in various states of existence. So, આપણે વાત કરીએ છીએ કે મારે ભગવાનની પર વાત કરીએ તો કે એના આ ભવમાં ભગવાન અહીંયા હતા બીજા ભવમાં વા હતા and we talk about the various forms of existence may not be as humans, it may be as animals, and so this is basically the manifestation of the karma. And we could be going to heaven or we may actually go to hell, depending on the karmas that we've accumulated in this life or a previous life of lives. And as I said, we could be humans, we could be animals. We are humans here, and that's why we can control. Right now, as humans, we can control kya karma kevi rite apne bandhiye che na chodiye che. Next slide, please, Darshana. So an outline according to Jainism, karma. It's a physical substance, and this substance is everywhere in the universe. So apni badhe apni aaspaas che. The mental, verbal, and physical actions that we take means that our soul attracts karma to it. The more intense that activity, the more karma attracted. So, કંઈક સારું કામ કરીએ અને ઘણી વખત સારું કામ કરીએ અને regularly એ કામ કરતા રહીએ તો we're going to get good karma. We do something bad, and in bad I don't mean certainly the things that we just talked about, but even thinking about somebody in a bad way, આપણે કોઈની પંચાત કરી કે gossip કરી, all of those things means we're accumulating karma, which are then sticking to our soul. So karma sticks to the soul due to the negative characteristics like anger, pride, and greed. And anger, pride, and greed, એટલે આપણો અહમ, આપણો લોભ, અને આપણે જે બધા પર ગુસ્સો કરીએ, એ ત્રણ વસ્તુની વાત આપણે આ ટોકમાં કરતા જ રહીશું, because these are the three bad things, the bad karmas that then accumulate. And how can we ward off bad karmas? By doing good things and creating some equally positive things around us. So Jainism says that karma can be burnt off in order for the soul to make spiritual progress. If you listen to elders, sometimes એ વાત એવી કરે, તમારા કર્મ ખપે છે, તમારા કર્મ ખપી ગયા, right? So what it's saying is કે આપણા કર્મ ડગલે ને પગલે બંધાય પણ છે અને છૂટે પણ છે. And living according to Jain principles, and those principles we talk about often, they can help to get rid or reduce the influx of karmas to our soul. We talk about the soul takes its karma with it from one life to the other. And in આપણે believe કરીએ છીએ કે આપણી body આપણે જાય પછી the body is basically incinerated, but the soul has already traveled to a different body and taken birth in a different body. However, the karma that you and I and everyone around us accumulates, goes with the soul to that next life, to the next body. And so far, what we are talking about is the influx of those karmas and why they're attracted to our soul and how they're attracted to our soul. And what can we now do to actually reduce that? We can't eliminate it because karma is part of what we are and how we live, but we can reduce the influx of bad karmas. Next slide, please. So, according to Jainism, we talk about inequality, suffering, and pain as part of the evidence that karma exists. Even in the Stavan, you heard them talking about કે આ બધું કર્મના કારણે જ થાય છે. So when you talked about Chandan Bara and her being sold as a slave in the marketplace, the Stavan tells us it's because of her karmas. That happened because of her karmas. Various types of karmas are classified according to their effects and potency. So it gets less strong chair. How do they affect us is dependent on how strong they are. Jainism explains the karmic process by specifying the various causes of karmic influx. So એ જે કર્મો આવે છે એને આપણે અશ્રાવા કહી શકીએ યા તો બંધ કહી શકીએ. So અશ્રાવા અને bondage ની આપણે વાત કરશું આગળ. And in Jainism, we place equal emphasis on the deeds and the intention behind those deeds. And this is where Jainism differs from other spiritual, faiths. In Hinduism, it is only the deeds, but apre sukaya, it's not just the deeds, it is the intention of committing those deeds that also accumulates the karma. The binding of this karma to our consciousness is called bandh, and we'll talk about bandha in a minute. And the theory that attaches for us as Jains and as Shravaks and Shravikas, greater responsibilities upon us as individuals and our individual actions, and how we can eliminate any reliance on some supposed existence of divine grace or retribution. Again, Jainism differs slightly from other faiths in this, and in that in Hinduism and in Buddhism, certainly, it is that there is some divine force that does this. Jainism says no, it is an individual's responsibility, and we can change this, and we can take control of it and make it so that we reduce the influx of those bad karmas. Our doctrine, and I don't like to use the word doctrine because Jainism is not a doctrine, it is a way of life. It also stresses that it is possible for us to modify our karma and to obtain release from it. So karma thi chutkaro par mali શકે છે, and through the austerity. So Jainism માં આપણે તપની વાત કરીએ છીએ, દાનની વાત કરીએ છીએ, અને સેવાની વાત કરીએ છીએ. So these are three forms of ways of conducting our life that helps us to reduce bad karma and a punya accumulation થઈ શકે. Next, please. So I referred earlier to 8 types of karma. So our 8 karma ni આપણે વાત કરશું, અને 8 karma are divided into destructive karmas and non-destructive karmas. And what are they? So આપણે ઘાતીય કર્મ ની વાત કરશું અને અઘાતીય કર્મ ની વાત કરશું. So બેના ચાર types છે, અને એમાં પછી થોડાક sub types છે. So આ image માં આપણે જોઈએ તો it is telling us ઘાતીય કર્મસ are મોહનીય કર્મ, જ્ઞાનાવર્ણ્ય કર્મ, દર્શનાવર્ણ્ય કર્મ, અને અંતરાય કર્મ. So those are ઘાતી karma, and these are controlled by the soul, right? So we have some control over them. And then we have some agatiya karma, which cannot be controlled. And they are vedaniya karma, ayusha karma, nam karma, and gotra karma. And what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about each of these in a bit more detail, because ana thorak subsets panche, and then, today I don't know if Darshna and we have time to go into a lot of detail, but I do want to try and cover a little bit of basics of this. The 8 types of karma. So if we go to the next slide, please. So first we're going to talk about Ghatya karma, and these are destructive karmas and directly affect our soul by impeding perception, knowledge, energy, and the bringing of delusion and that pollution that we talked about earlier. So what are they? And as I said, there are 4 types of these. So Monia, Gnana Varnya, Darshana Varnya, and Antaray karma. These are the 4 destructive karmas. And what do they do? So how do they affect us? Monia karma, first of all, is all about how do we, when we are living in our own lives, what do we do that produces this karma and increases the influx of this karma? So pela mekiduem, this is a delusionary karma, and there are 2 subtypes of this. So there's a darsana mohaniya karma, and then a charitra mohaniya karma. So we'll talk about darsana first. And if at any point you are thinking, oh, but I yad nathi, don't worry, because I record Thai chair, and you'll be able to go back and actually and look at the slides as well. So if you speak ill of somebody, so apne koi ni vato kariye, ke apne koi ne, we talk behind their backs, we all do it. We all do this. That is accumulation of bad monia karma. If you speak ill of scriptures, so ghari fere apne koi ne vaat kariye ne, to kya haun to badhu lakhelu che, but I don't really understand it, or I don't really believe it. I don't know who's written it. Or you say kya language mane nathi samajh padti. So prakrik ma lakhela apna Jain agamo. Ghani vakat I hear people say kya mane samajh nathi padtu. If by thinking that thought, instead of thinking mane samajh nathi padtu, I'm going to try and understand it, apne monia karma bandhu, because our thoughts are saying kya mane samajh nathi padti, and I'm not going to do anything to try and understand it. So we've accumulated monia karma then. And then there are 2 other things. If you speak ill of religion, so tame religion ni baat karo in a way that isn't respectful, you're also accumulating that karma. And the other one is when we talk about monks and nuns in a way that is not respectful, we've also accumulated that karma. And charitra nivacho kariye to, it's anything that produces a kasai in our lives. So when we talk about kasai, we talked about indulging in various recreational activities. So it might be making fun of something or somebody. Children do this a lot. They make fun of disabled people because they don't understand the concept of disability. Somebody looks different to them. You hear that a lot, that children make fun of other children. By doing that, that's what's happened. You've accumulated that karma. And sometimes it's just the way we conduct our life that is not necessarily for the benefit of others, and it's only for the benefit of ourselves. So that element of selfish versus selflessness. This is also about Mohniya karma. And then sometimes people who cheat other people and finding fault with others. So this is all about Mohniya karma. I'll talk a little bit about Gnana Varnya karma and what are the different types of these karma and how can we come to recognize our actions and we know ke main ave aa karma bandhu. Gnana Varnya karma, again, very destructive, and it interferes with our intellect and our senses of being able to prevent understanding and understanding the truth. So ઘણા લોકો શું કહે કે આ જ્ઞાનાવર્ણ્ય કર્મના કારણે તમને સમજ નથી પડતી કે તમે natural light નથી જોઈ શકતા, as in natural light of your soul, yeah? You cannot get beyond some of this because તમને જ્ઞાનાવર્ણ્ય કર્મ બહુ જોરદાર છે તમારી લાઈફમાં. Let's see the next slide. Darshnavarnya karma. So this one is interfering with our perception and our senses. And then antray karma, which is obstructing energy of our soul. And it blocks us from doing good. It blocks the soul from doing good. Ghani fere you'll hear people say, mane ani antray che. So, you know, I'll give you an example. If you go, this has happened to somebody who came on a jatra with me to Summit Sikar. We had reached Summit Sikar itself, and then this lady who was with us had a fall and couldn't actually carry on with the jatra. And so that how that was described was manisenik antrai che. So amane noidu. So that antrai karma is also about stopping us from using our energy positively and doing good things for our soul. So far, we've talked about those four, and we're going to now talk about the non-destructive four karmas. If we can have the next slide, please. So these are karmas that happen. They are non-destructive, but they happen because we live in a way that makes this happen. So first one is Vedniya karma. And a Vedniya karma is all about pain. It could be pain or it could be pleasure. Ebe vastu am I included? So they can be pleasant things or they can be unpleasant things. And they are the experiences that we have lived as human beings that causes this karma. And it's all about the feelings that we have. And that's why sometimes, you know, people say, oh, tame think karo cho, but if you just keep thinking that, you're accumulating this karma. But if your mind then starts thinking about some other things, then you know you're starting to get away from that cycle of talking about the same things. And then we talk about nam karma. So this one is determined by the physical characteristics of our new life, whatever that life may be, and the spiritual potential of that new life. So sometimes you say, oh, ene nam karam baindu. And what that means is you may be, you know, from this life, you may be born into a family, into a life of, you know, luxury. So they say, kene sub nam karam baindu. Enu nam karan ઊંચું હતું અને ઘણું બાંધેલું હતું, so એવું થયું. The opposition to this is, of course, genuine behavior that causes us to not have namkaran. Yeah. So some people will talk about purity of the world view, humility, cultivation of knowledge, all of these things. So they're very humble, and then in namkaran nati bindu. So that is how that is described in Jainism. People who possibly don't talk about ego, they're humble, they haven't then accumulated this karma. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Raflabin, before we
Yeah.
move on to the next slide, would you mind explaining what you mean by determines the spiritual potential of the new life, please?
So is this in this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so namkaram, basically there are two types of this. There's ashubh or shubh namkaran, right? There's auspicious or inauspicious karam, and the causes of both of those. So if I talk about maybe the causes first, we might start to understand the determination part, right? The causes are crooked and misleading actions which pertain to our mind, speech, and body, and causes of inflow of inauspicious karma. The opposite to this is straightforwardness. So, sometimes you hear people say, oh, she's so straight, she'll just say how it is. Yeah. There's no hidden agenda, that kind of thing. And genuine behavior. So when somebody's very straight with people and they say what they think, there's no baggage after the conversation. That is the opposite of this. And then 16 dispositions that cause rebirth as a Tirthankar Bhagwan. And so Tirthankar Bhagwan namkaran bo uchu hoy, and that's why they are born as Tirthankar Bhagwan. This is how Jainism describes namkaran. So it's the purity of our view, humility, non-violence of vows, and how we think and say and act. And then the persistence of cultivating knowledge, charity, and renunciation as per our capacities. So things that we do, I say, okay, I can only do this, so this is all I will do. I'm not going to go beyond this because this is not in I can't do it beyond this. That's my limit, right? When we are that straight and we say those things, we have said them with very honest and integrity. That's all part of this karma. Devotion towards sadhujis and tirthankars is also about building this karma. And that's how the characteristics of our next life are being built, essentially. It's how are we accumulating the good namkaran to then, go into our next life. And then ultimately for all of us, it's the path to moksha, right? Liberation. Because Jainism is saying all these things that we're trying to do or not do are all ultimately about that, seeking that path to liberation and towards moksha. And also that thing about I'm not attached to this, the detachment part. So namkaran is built by doing good deeds, good seva, and thinking of things in a much more positive way. And towards the end of this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the things we can do practically every day to maybe stop this karma and the influx of negative karmas. Yeah. Is that okay? Okay.
Thank you.
Great. So let's go to our next slide. Ayusha karma. So this is one that often gets people, and people say, oh my, this is the one that is not in our gift, as it were. And it's true, it's not in our gift. This karma determines how long we are going to live in this life and what is the limit to which we're going to live in this life as a manushya, and what happens when we're reborn. So you often hear people say, oh, ayusha hatune eklui jiva, yeah? So that's this karma. And then gotra karma, which is the final one in this set. So gotra karma is okay, two subsets of it. I wasn't going to talk about the subset, but I think I have to because I need to explain the two types. So Gotra karma is divided into the subset of Nika Gotra and Uka Gotra. Nika Gotra is praising oneself, defaming others, hiding the merit of others, finding fault in others, and believing that actually I'm a higher being than other beings. So this is Mavi Bhagwan's teaching saying, you know, koi uchu nati, koi nichu nati. Gotra karma is all about this. It's determining the status of a being. Uka Gotra karma is opposite of this. So you can build punya by saying, I will praise others. I am going to admit my shortcomings, but I'm not going to find fault in others. I'm going to ignore my merits, but I will talk about other people and their merits. And with humility, I'm going to just modestly talk about the status that I may be in and they may be not in. So it's all about that equilibrium and us not believing that actually I am here and you are here. It's that balance and talking about koi uchu nati, koi nichu nati. That's Gotra karma. And I'm going to go to the next slide, please. So how do we avoid and remove karmas? And what I would like is after this slide, we will take a little break and I'm going to ask for a couple of questions of everyone who's joined us today and to see whether we can, as a group, come to some conclusions about how can we do this. Right, so by behaving well, we can avoid, two ways to avoid karma. By behaving well, so we can reduce attracting new karmas. And then by having the right mental state that allows us to act in a way, in a correct mental attitude, that means that karma either doesn't stick to the soul or discharges immediately. And I talked about this earlier, that we are able to discharge our karmas. This idea that we are continually building karmas, we are also discharging them. Sapra karma chute panche in the way that we live our life. And here it is explaining that some karmas expire on their own after causing suffering. So you often hear people say, oh, in a karma kapiya. That's what that means. A karma kapiya, because they have suffered, suffering finished you, and e karma kapiya. And other karmas do still remain. Karma that has built up on the soul can be removed by living a life according to Jain principles and the Jain vows that our sadhu sadhvijis take. So I am going to just take a little break there, and I'm going to ask you all a question. You can either put your hands up and answer this, or you can put it in the chat. So are there ways that we could actually reduce karmas, the destructive karmas? I'm not talking about obviously the good karmas. Are there ways that we could do that, and what are they? Who wants to start us off? Anyone? So someone called Rashmi has answered yes. So I don't know, do you want to expand on that and say que virite? Okay. Biju Ben thinking pratikaman is a way to do that.
Is doing like dops and charity away.
Tops and charity is a way, absolutely. Doing good deeds, yes, is a way. So these are ways to accumulate good karma, and you know, hopefully put the influx of bad karma to a reduced state. Any more? Religious activities, doing top, yes, yes. samay, dan, seva. Yeah, yeah. All of those are good ways. What else could we do? Helping others. Yes, someone called Ronak has written that. Helping others. Charitable thoughts, non-violence.
Prayashit.
Prayashit, thank you. Yes, Prayashit is very important. And we'll talk about Prayashit in a minute. Meditation and controlling our thoughts. So remember at the start of this, I said, it's not just our deeds, it is our thoughts as well that builds karma or bad karma. Not wasting food and water. Yes, so this falls into our behavior and our way of living our life. Caring for others, yes. Thinking good of others. So what did I say about one of the karmas, one of the bad ones? That always means that we're thinking bad of others. So thinking good of others means we are building good karma. Forgiveness, yes. Yeah. Keeping samta. Yeah, that's a very good one because that means we're not going to be angry about things. Non-attachment, yes. Rona, you've written accumulating unnecessary things. Do you mean not accumulating unnecessary things? Maybe. Not having ego. So yes, that thing that we talked about earlier with humility, talking about others with humility. Hi, Rona, did you want to say something?
Yeah, it's Ronak and Sarita here.
Hi.
Hi. What we were saying, accumulating things in a way that, આપણે કહે છે ને કે, ઘરમાં આટલી બધી વસ્તુ ના જોતી હોય નહીં રાખવાની, ખાવાનું આટલું બધું બનાવવાનું નહીં, જેટલું સિમ્પલ બનાવી શકે એટલું, કપડાં છે, all those things, not accumulating unnecessary wardrobes and
Aparigrah.
Aparigrah.
Aparigrah, yes, absolutely. So there's a lot of things here that we can do, and how many of these things are actually very practical to do, and we can do them in our everyday life and how we live our life. So none of this is actually rocket science. None of this is very difficult. Darshna Ben, you did say earlier that it is a challenge. And that's what it is. It is a challenge. But if we have a little bit of an understanding about this and it's in our thoughts, okay, by doing this, I can do that, then maybe that's a little bit of a help for everybody. Reducing passions. So, Bharat, you've written that. I wondered if you wanted to say what you mean by that.
Jai it's mainly our kashais, which are anger, greed, ego, deceit, rag, dvesh, our likes and dislikes.
Mm-hmm. When you say dislikes, what specifically do you think that refers to?
And I think Jainism, the first step, in accruing karmas is I mean, that is probably the first step. It all starts with your likes and dislikes, which then goes on to your craving and aversions. And that leads to binding of karma. I mean, that is what leads to binding of karmas. Of course, there are a few other things like mithyatva, avirti, when we don't take vows. Mithyatva means our wrong perceptions.
Yeah, so Bhagwan Mahavir says, Tame dukma ane sukma beima same ryo, right? So
that is equanimity.
Yeah. And so what you just said about, it's our likes and our dislikes, and then how that builds into other things. And and you know, through that we just keep building that cycle off. It's like, you know, apne koi nahi baat kariye, and sometimes I mean, we all do it. It happens in daily life. We get on the bus and the conductor perhaps wasn't as wonderful as he could have been or she could have been. And આપણે બેસી જાય પણ આપણા મગજમાં એ જ ફરે કે આ કેટલો rude છે, આ કેટલી rude છે. And look at the way they're driving this bus. Yeah, all of those things. Instead of us just sitting and not thinking either of any of that, we're going from A to B on a bus, on a journey. પણ એ આપણા મગજમાં ના આવે. So when we get off the bus, we have arrived at our destination in a much more peaceful way for ourselves, right? But this is the challenge. How do we be like that so we are completely the same, whether kaik saru hoy ke kaik kharab hoy? Yeah, that's effectively the thing કે તમે દુઃખમાં હો ને તો પછી આપણે દુઃખમાં એટલું નહીં ડૂબી જવાનું કે that is all we are going to see. અને આપણે સુખમાં હોઈએ તો આપણે સુખમાં એટલું બધું ઉછલાઈ નહીં જવાનું કે આપણે બીજું કાંઈ દેખાય જ નહીં. Yeah, right. Darshabe, shall we go and move on to the next one, because the next one is actually about values, morals, and
Before we do that, we've got a question in from Sanjanaben about the
was
two
it in
parts
the chat?
Yeah, there's two parts of the question about Ghatya Karma and Aghatya Karma. So can Ghatya Karma be controlled, and are they due to our actions in this life? And the Aghatya Karma, are they already predetermined due to our actions in our past lives?
So the simple thing about this, so we talk about destructive karmas now, but they may have been accumulated in many previous lives, right? We haven't accumulated particularly them in this life. They may be the result of things we have done in a previous life. And what we now say is actually our life ma apre su kariye ke eno jor apre ocho kari shakiye. Yeah, so that they are not going to have the same effect on our present life. Remember my second slide that said how we live today can improve all our tomorrows. And that's what, if we were in that previous Gati and we understood this, perhaps our today would be even better than it is. So it may not be that it is all from this life. It is something that may have been accumulated in a previous life. Yeah. So karma is all about our energies, our thoughts, and our emotions. And these are energy in motion. And in essence, what we said right at the start of this, that everything we do creates a corresponding energy that comes back to us in some form. So on the left-hand side, there are some words which, you know, associate with the energies that we're talking about. Our values, our morals, the honor, the standards, virtue, respect, decency, purpose, our attitude, equality, and convention. So these are all the things that either make our energy good or they make our energy bad. And this is all about the energy that we waste or accumulate or bank in our thoughts and our emotions. So when I was giving the example of the bus journey, our thoughts were probably quite negative towards the driver, and then that affects our emotions. So in simple terms, everything we do creates either a positive or a negative consequence. And everything that we do in creating this negative or positive, what we're saying is use karma as that powerful tool to be more mindful of our thoughts, actions, and deeds before we make decisions. So this is understanding કે આ કરીશ તો મારું આ કર્મ બંધાશે, આ કરીશ તો કદાચ પુણ્ય બંધાશે, આ કરીશ તો એ કર્મ કદાચ ઓછું થશે. and then making decisions based on those principles. And with that in mind, what I wanted to just talk about is a few laws of karma and a guideline around how in our practical life, in our daily lives, what can we do? And some of the simple things, simple thoughts, understanding karma, that we can actually create good karma in our lives. And these are not particularly, they are universal laws in terms of things that were already in the chat and, things that we have talked about in the conversation earlier here on the chat. So if we see the next slide, please. Okay, so if we understand karma and the fact that it's all about cause and effect, we cause something, so and we effect hawanuche. We said something, so that is going to have an impact. What we give comes back to us. In that video that we were watching, there was a really nice line. It said, with karma, there's no menu with the karma. You will get fed what you have basically given others, or something along that line. Hindi mahatu. Create. So what can we do? We ourselves can create an environment in our own minds and our thoughts that is actually going to help us. So don't wait for things to happen. We are masters of our own destiny. Like, create that situation, create that environment in your mind and in your thoughts that actually helps us to create more good, more better things, more positivity around us. Humility. So we talked about ego, and we talked about that one karma that was all about humility and being humble. So we do need to be humble, and we have to accept that my current reality, so the situation I am in now, is the result of my past actions. And so therefore my future situation, or the situation I am in, how do I make those karmas less powerful? And in my future, how can I actually make my punya more powerful than my bad karmas? So humility and being humble and accepting, yes, me kai khotu kairo ase, pyare mane a karma nahi rache. And if we just accept that, then we can deal with the next bit of it, which is actually, how do I correct this? Growth, and growth begins with us, not with others. So bijaniya prevato na kari, and we just focus on our own journey. If we are saying ke mare chutu che, mara karma ne chorwa che, ane mara karma અહીંયા જ ખપી જાય તો સારું. So let's focus on our own journey and not other people's journey. This next one, number 5, is really important, because often we hear people say, "Amane athu because ene mane akairuto," right? No, we are the product of our own choices. We have made the choice, and we own what happens next. So if we say, "This is because of me," not because of the third person or some other thing that I'm blaming, I'm accepting that this is because of me, then we can deal with that in a better way. Number 6, so everything in our life, including our past, present, and future, they are all connected. And this is the thing with Jainism. And as I said before, Hinduism, Buddhism doesn't always believe this. So abadu je aya future badu connected to our past and to our future. What we are today is because of our past, and what we do today will affect our future. And this idea of the birth cycles that we talked about, and the birth cycles that, in the Stavan, it referred to that as well. So I was so pleased when I saw some of the words in the Zoom chat that are actually in this slide. So the values like seva, giving, selflessness, peace, and if we kind of adopt these, then we're less likely to be distracted by feelings of resentment, greed, and anger. So those 3 bad kasais that Bharat Bhai Bhavisi referred to, the resentment, greed, and anger then builds up, and it builds up. so much that karma more powerful થઈ જાય. But if we start thinking about seva, giving, selflessness, and peace, then, the cycle is always opposite. Next, please. Number 8, so holding grudges. This really holds us back, and it really holds us our progress towards moksha and liberation back. So practice forgiveness, and forgive kare, actually our negative thoughts and our negative behaviors become the past. And don't bring all that stuff from the past to your present day. So finish, we are here now. Let's deal with the now. And how are we going to make the now better? In my everyday professional life, I talk about change a lot. So Deshnaben, when you were doing my introduction, you introduced me as a change communications consultant. And I spend a lot of time talking about change and how people deal with change. Change is not always a bad thing. It does provide us with a new path and a new future that we can create, and we become better ourselves and a better version of us by changing. And often it is because we've left the pattern of the past behind. That cycle of, ane am kairu, so that's why I'm going to do this. They did this to me, so I'm going to do this. All of that actually is hurting us more than it may be hurting them. And so we say, leave that pattern of the past and change for the better. Drawing good karma is our wish and our desire is kapre punya bandye. So first we have to practice what we want to receive. Let's practice what we want to give others, and then we're going to receive that. Introspection. So in the chat, someone mentioned pratikamana and samayik. 2 very, very, very important, unique things that are in Jainism and given to us as a legacy, as a treasure. And it allows us to introspect and soul search and explore our role in our life. So, mea kairui right hatu, mea jea kairua right hatu. And it's so important to introspect. And only when we reflect and introspect are we going to actually say, mea kairui right natu, next time I'm going to try and be a bit better than that. And it's important that we do that without judging ourselves, but the purpose of this is to gain understanding, not to place blame. Because if we place blame on ourselves, we will be back in that cycle of negative thoughts and negative energy. The idea is, actually, have I learned anything from this after I've introspected? Last week, last month, how I behaved in that situation, or how somebody behaved and how I reacted. Was that right? Could I have done better? So introspection, very, very important. Someone mentioned prashit earlier in the chat. Again, prashit means that we are sorry for our actions and we're forgiving others for their actions. Kindness and compassion. So these are 2 very, very important principles of Jainism. We often talk about daya, and we talk about how daya no bhav, right? And we talk about that in relation to anukampa, which is daya for humankind, and jiv daya for animals, so the animal kingdom. And the responsibility of the words and the actions that we ourselves do. And this is something we can control, so that we stop doing that, so we start attracting good karma until it becomes our daily life. Without thinking about it, that's what we're doing. And finally, the 12th one here is making a difference. So however small something is that we do, it makes a positive difference to somebody else. And eventually it will become our habit. So we don't then go back and digress into those other negative things that perhaps we were surrounded by. And our life is almost like, today I will do something that makes a difference to something else, a positive difference, even if it's a very small thing. Somebody mentioned not wasting food, not wasting water. All those things are actually positive differences that we can make every single day in our practical life. You know, if we talk about the very small things that we can do, those are very small things in our everyday life and how we live our life that we can do, that reduces the influx of those bad karmas. I have a feeling that might be our last slide, Vaishnaben. There you go. So I don't know if people have got more questions for me. I'm going to stop talking for a minute and let's see if people here want to talk. Do we have time or have we run out of time, Vaishnaben?
We can take a few questions. That's absolutely fine.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to say thank you to Oshwal Association, to Darshnaben, to Shandipai, for giving me this opportunity to talk about this very, very, very deep subject of karma. So what I've done is just scratch the surface to try to explain the art karmas and their impact on our everyday life. But you know, karma, I was saying to you before we came on today, I've actually seen somebody do 10 sessions just talking about karma. So it is an incredibly deep subject, but I hope today what I've covered has given people a little bit of understanding about how Jainism treats the topic of karma. So if people got questions, I'm very happy to take them. You can unmute and ask me, or you can put it in the chat, whatever works for you. And it's nice to see some familiar faces or names on here, which is good, really good.
Prafulabin, I have a question.
Yeah.
So in the first couple of slides, you asked us to think about the relationship between karma, well, the relationship and karma. Now, from my side, I think there is a relationship between what we do today and karma, but then you look at the world as a whole, and there's a lot of people suffering, not getting food, wars going around. So are we saying they've done bad karma in their past life to have all of that, or and in their next life they're going to have good karma? Is that what we're saying?
So there is a thought and a theory, and I've heard people say, okay, if you have done a lot of good karma or punya in the past, you will gather in spaces where you will continue doing good karma, good things, good punya, right? If you have done a lot of bad things, you're all going to gather in the same place where there's going to be samuha suffering. So all of you are going to suffer together. And so Jainism actually believes this. And so, yeah, you're right. When you see a lot of suffering like that, it may be that in a past life, those same people have together done something that wasn't great. And so now they are in this place, in this space where there is a lot of suffering.
Thank you.
And it goes back to, yes, there is a relationship between our thoughts, deeds, our actions, and the karma that we accumulate. So whether that's good thoughts, bad thoughts, good deeds, good actions, bad actions. Yes. I think there's something in the chat. Oh, I thought it was a question. No, there's no question. Right. Any more for any more? Hey, what did you all think of that stubborn?
Would you be able to share the link
To the stubborn?
Yes, please. If you share it with Sandeep and then he can share it with.
Do you want me to share it here?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, I can. There you go. It's on YouTube. And there is several versions of it. That version is the Marwari version, which I really like. But yeah, I've just shared it there.
Prafulabin.
Hi.
Hi, Prafulabin, this is Sarita again. Ronak wants to ask you one thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak up for him because he's just asked me to say it.
Yeah.
Now, what he's saying that, okay, you know, we are always mindful of not building our karmas, right? So, say for instance, this party, so Ronak is saying that if I am very mindful of not building karmas, but then things happen that somebody comes and provokes it, or somebody comes and does something to make you a little bit to make you angry or think bad about that person or whatever. So here I'm trying to not do make more karmas or attract karmas, but somebody is doing it and then I am attracting anyways. So how do we come out of this situation?
Okay, so there's two things here. First of all, somebody's doing it. So then they're doing it to you, but actually they're accumulating the bad karmas, yeah? Because they've thought of the bad thoughts, the bad deeds, and the bad actions, yeah? The only time you're going to accumulate those karmas, or itamne chot say, is when you react to that. Remember what I said about cause and reaction?
Yeah.
So somebody wrote earlier in our chat, samta, yeah, samta bhav. And how do we not react to that? So reaction is why that situation will then escalate. And it's practicing not reacting to that. Remember I said equanimity. So in good time, bad time, remain the same.
Yeah.
And that's similar to this. So ઈ કરે છે એના કર્મ બંધાય છે આ મને નથી ચોટવાનું because I'm not going to react to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so basically you are saying that before you react, think before you react to anything, right?
Yeah.
Because if by your reaction, you are already putting yourself into attracting more karmas.
Correct. Because but the person who is doing the thoughts and the acting, actually they're accumulating the bad karma. But if you react to it, then
Yeah.
you are as well. Yes.
So basically, one shouldn't react to anything before, right?
Well, basically, yeah. Or think about it in a more charitable way, which could be that actually in a future, why are they reacting this way? Why are they treating me this way? And suddenly in your mind, you have changed the mindset from that person's provoking me to actually, I wonder if that person's going through something that is making them do this.
Right. Okay. And
Yeah.
we just want to say that this topic was excellent and you really, really presented it so well. So you need to come and do more of something like this.
Oh, thank you. I was so nervous thinking, oh, how am I going to do this any justice? So thank you for that. It's really
No,
kind of you.
because karma is something. So basically, Ronak and Vishali has got physical disability.
Right.
Right. And being a mother, when they were little, people you always used to come up with this statement, "Ena karma chene etlene awaivuch, ena karma chene," and that really hurt me as a parent, because yes, ena karma che apre I aivu che evi rite, but we are no better than that either. So, you know, but saying that in front of somebody who is already suffering, that's not good either, right?
And you know, Sarita Ben, part of this is the reaction of a community, reaction of people around us to disability. Because eneto me daya tipon joy shakocho, right? Don't give them pity, but actually think about the situation if you were in those shoes, and making a comment like that has obviously stayed with them a long time, and now you're talking about it, so it stayed with you as well. And I think all I can say is, you know, as a community, as a group of people, as human beings, we should be more compassionate about those situations.
Yeah, because I think it stayed with me because they were little, they didn't understand. They're born with certain things, right? So
Yeah,
so many
yeah,
babies and people are born with disability or illnesses or whatever, right? So
yeah, yeah,
okay, that is probably they're bringing their past karmas with it.
yeah, yeah,
But having to say that, um, and making a statement out of it, and you not, or that child doesn't understand, but you also don't understand, what has that child done in this life to have this, and you're obviously now you understand that past things also come with you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think that that issue of daya, dharma, dan, all those things, as a community, we do have a lot to learn when it comes to uh, the diverse population that we see around us, and how should we react. Sometimes children do it as well, because they don't understand. There's a school for disabled children at the bottom of my road, and I sometimes hear the kids talking to each other, and they don't understand, so that's why they're talking that way. But hopefully, as they grow older, they will understand, and there is that understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for today's session.
Thank you for joining, and raising that. So it's a really important topic.
Thanks.
Right, Darshana Ben, I'm getting quite a few people saying it was good, so I'm pleased about that. Thank you for your kindness, everyone. That's really nice. And I think I am doing another talk. I can't remember that. Yes, I am. I'm talking about Jainism in the modern world in a few months' time. So I will be back at some point. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Laben, for
Thank
your
you, Prof.
interesting session. I actually enjoyed the talk about karma. I feel like I learned a lot as well. And a lot of questions that have been going through in my head have been answered. So thank you.
Thank you all very much. And if anyone's got any other questions, do reach out to whoever sent the link to you, and they can pass those questions to me. There is some reading we can do as well, and I'll pass that message to you, Darshnap, and if you want to share that with everyone. Yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Amazing.
And just before we close, just a couple of small announcements. Next Thursday, we've got book club. We're actually starting a new book called Walk With Me. It's about the journey through Mahavir Bhagwan's eyes. It's an interesting book. So for those who like reading, please join the book club. We're trying to elevate the spirit, well, trying to get you on the spiritual journey, understand the spiritual path. Feel free to ask questions in that book club. And our next Jainism class will be in 2 weeks' time. I believe that's the 23rd of May. I don't have details of who's teaching, but it will all come up out in the chat, on the WhatsApp chat. Thank you everyone for joining today.
Thank you, Jai Jinendra, everyone.